Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing tonight? I am Melissa Haley. Welcome to our Facebook Live. Gabby, so good to see you on the Zoom tonight.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Reagan's on her way. I'm sure she'll be here in just a second. We're going to get things started.
Yes, I'm here. My video, it won't allow me. It says the host has stopped my video. So if you could help me out a little bit.
See if I can just start. Thank you very much. Try that. See if that works for you. She's like, I'm in the room. I'm in the room.
I think we got it. Cool.
There she is.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Reagan, for being here with us tonight. Are y'all ready to get started?
Yes, ma'am.
Whoop. Y'all, I taught a class all day today, so I'm a little bit like, on my Zoom. Just saying.
Love it.
All right. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. I am Melissa Haley. I am the real estate broker for North Texas Top Team Realtors. And tonight, we are talking about an important topic. We're talking about home prices. So you already know the economy's changing. You probably know that affects the real estate market. And if you like to stay informed about all things real estate, go check us out. Check us out on all of our social media channels. Our handle is at NTX Top Team. Now make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel too, and you can check out some other great videos that we have about real estate in North Texas. And whether you're moving now or next year, you can just give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We'll help you make your move to North Texas. So as we always do before we get started, let me quickly introduce everyone that I have with me tonight. So tonight I have top producing realtor Reagan Haley, and I have my right-hand person, Gabby Powell, with us tonight.
Hello there. Hey, y'all.
Hi, guys.
Happy to be here.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks so much for being here to the both of you. Gabby, you know, I couldn't do it without you. And Reagan, we are going to just get lots of good information from you tonight. So thank you both for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, so for those of you watching, if you've been watching our videos for a while, you already know that we're going to make time to answer questions at the end of the night. If you stick around with us, as a matter of fact, just like we always do, we're going to give you something free tonight. We're going to give you a link to some information about the home buying process. And of course, if you haven't checked us out already online, go check us at all of our social media channels at NTX Top Team, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get to stay up to date with all the things we got going on. So let's get started. So guys, love to get a backstory about you, Reagan. Tell us a little bit about, you know, who you are, where you came from. Just tell us a little bit about yourself so everybody can get to know you.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, thanks for having me again. But Melissa, you may know, I am a native Texan. I'm born and raised here in North Texas. I live in Collin County and I service that area. But I service pretty much everywhere in the DFW. Personally, I love to travel and I love all things real estate. I find real estate, architecture, just super fascinating. And then I love traveling, experiencing new places, going to new cities, and also just exploring the cities around us here in the DFW. We have so much to offer. So I'm definitely an explorer. Another thing about me is that I grew up around real estate, in real estate. So I think it's just really near and dear to me. I'm a second generation realtor. So I think it's just really easy to be around real estate, and it's just so much fun for me. I really enjoy my job.
Awesome. I love it. You know, our office, what do we have? We say we work hard, play hard, right?
Totally.
Love what we do, and it shows. So awesome. Well, I know you're an expert at real estate, and I mean, it's a true statement. You did grow up in it. So I know you're going to have some really great information to give everybody today. And again, thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Of course.
Awesome. All right. Well, so tonight's topic, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Tonight's topic is home prices. And I think people are wondering, are home prices dropping? Or maybe if they're not dropping yet, are they going to be dropping? And like I mentioned earlier, you know, when I first started us off, I said, you know, the economy's changing. And of course, that's going to affect the real estate market. So because the real estate market and the economy are changing, that's going to impact home buyers and home sellers. It's going to affect them and their ability to buy and sell. So I would love to just hear like some personal stories. So you had a story that happened kind of right when the market started to shift and the economy started to shift and interest rates started to change. Tell us a little bit about what happened with your transaction with your consumer.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we have seen the shift happen. And in this particular case, we have been seeing such a heavy seller stressed market since 2020 until now. We've just been seeing kind of that overlying sellers market. And so I had a listing that we were set to go on the market in May. And during our consultation a few months prior, we were pretty solid that, things were just flying off the shelves and that the home would go super fast. It wasn't really any question about it. So when we did go on the market in May, we had a few appointments, but we sat on the market for 3 weeks, which felt super long. It felt longer than 3 weeks for sure, just because that's not what we had been seeing, the past 2 years. So, it was almost like the week that we put the house on the market that a switch had flipped, and it was just like, it was that instant that we had seen the changes.
Yeah, because just prior to that, they were how long was the house taken to sell before May? What was the timeline then?
Like 3 to 5 days, like a week was too long. So
Yeah, you were like 3 to 5 days, and then it's like 3 weeks.
yeah,
What have we done?
yes.
Yeah, well, I know the market really did shift that fast. And, interest rates started to rise, and that just kind of made everybody sort of panic a little bit. And so I would love to know. So you've been talking to your seller, they're thinking, we're going to get an offer in 3 days, and instead it's 3 weeks. How did your sellers respond when they didn't get any offers the first few days like they may have anticipated?
Right. So she was just fine with it. She thought that we were doing a really great job with the marketing. She saw how we were getting the word out there. We were going to our sphere and all of our realtor friends, and we were just talking so much about the property and doing our job the best we can. And so she felt our efforts were really great.
Oh, awesome. So she wasn't that worried, and probably you were having some conversations with her about, things are shifting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that your client was understanding of that market shift. So then what happened? So 3 weeks go by, you got an offer. Did you get under contract and go to closing? Like what, or did it all fall apart? Like what happened then?
Yeah. So we did get an offer. Woo-hoo, and like we were just talking about, on my end, it felt like so long, like time was just sitting still. So because we had so much urgency in the market, and this was the first instance where we had actually seen this happen, and we were wondering, is it us? Is what's going on? So my client was just happy that they sold their house in 3 weeks, which is pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, that is still really fast. I mean, if you think about it, and I know we're gonna, talk about some statistics later today, but that historically, when you look back, 3 weeks has got to be fast, right? I think houses, generally didn't sell that fast 5 years ago or 25 years ago or whatever. So yeah, 3 weeks isn't a bad time frame.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I like this kind of story, hearing things like this and being able to hear what's really happening to people, because, we're not just here helping people buy and sell houses. We're not here just to help with the house price. We're here to help the people.
Right.
And it's kind of cool to hear the stories of the actual people that are going through it. And especially in a shifting market, because this is probably the same experience that other sellers are having all across the country. And this may be why some people are expecting home prices to go down, right? Maybe they think, well, rates are rising and houses are taking 3 weeks to sell, which again isn't long, but they're thinking it is. So if they think that's maybe, a catalyst for the home price shift, but what do you think is really happening in the market?
Sure. So the rates are going up. We've seen that. We did get word today that the Federal Reserve is again going to raise the rates, but it still doesn't compare to the 12 and 16% interest rates that our parents saw, our grandparents, our great grandparents. Kind of what people have been hearing and what what's been going around is that, oh, the rates were 2 and 3%. And so like right now when we're at like 5s and 6s and whatnot, people think that's really high when really the catalyst for the low interest rates to begin with was the pandemic. It was an economic disaster. So the 2 and 3% was strictly the Federal Reserve trying to stimulate our economy, which was in kind of a little bit of turmoil. It's something that we had never experienced before. So that's not normal. We won't see the 2 and 3% rates unless, there is some kind of serious thing happen, and nobody could have predicted the pandemic. So that was just kind of a perk, if you want to say so. I mean, pandemic wasn't really a perk, but that's why we were seeing those rates 2 and 3%. So the 5 and 6 is pretty healthy, even a little bit more, is pretty healthy. But I do have a really good resource that we can see. It's almost like it's a market snapshot of what's going on. And I'd love to just share that, with everybody and kind of break it down so we can see, what's really going on. I think the visual is really great. And it's super helpful. So I'm gonna
I think that's great. And while you're pulling that up, I do have to say, I agree with you about the rates not being normal, because, the government was in the, you can go ahead and share it, but the government was in the, in the mindset of spur the economy, reduce those interest rates, give away some free money. Remember, there was all of the pandemic relief on the financial front. So I totally think that that's part of it. Like you said, it's not, 2 and 3% is not normal.
I can't share it. Can you share it for?
Let me see if I can give you.
I had it up, but it's not.
It should let you. See if it'll let you share it now. Because I would love to take a look at those numbers with everybody.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
I can't pick it up for some reason.
That's all right. Well, and while you're doing that, I will also just say, like you were saying about the pandemic and the economic stuff, we talked about the Fed was raising the rate again, just like literally, we just heard it again this week. And I think that's, I don't know, is that the 4th time or the 5th time this year? And the first time when they did it, it was a small little interest rate hike and it didn't go up too much. But the second time when they did it, and they raised it like 0.75%, and it did affect mortgage rates. And then of course they've made some other adjustments and it hasn't really affected mortgage rates, but the one that they announced, I know they're doing another 0.75% or so. And I think that will potentially affect mortgage rates again this go round too. Do you agree with that?
I do. For some reason, the snapshot is not populating on my end. It looks completely different. Do you happen to know, do you have it up? It's the August 2022 market snapshot.
Yep, I'll go find it real quick while you are.
Mine looks like super weird. It's not what we were hoping for. So if you can.
Not a problem. I got it. I will pull it up and I can do a screen share for us. I am certain of it. So let me pull this up here real quick. And then we can chat about the numbers, because I do think, like you said, I think it's really important for people to see that they have, we have statistics that back up what's going on out there. And I think it's important for everybody to see it. So
truly, and it's super thorough too. And it's really a great visual to look at.
Awesome. All right. Well, so can you see my screen?
Yes. This is what we were looking for.
Awesome. All right. So I'm looking at what I've got here it's from Texas Realtors. It's what we call our market viewer. And it is the August 22 market statistics. This is for the whole state of Texas. Is that what you wanted to talk about, was the whole state?
Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, perfect. So walk us through this a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just going to break it down, and they have it, planned out so beautifully here. So let's start on the left side. So like you said, this is our market snapshot for the entire state of Texas for August. So the median price that we have here in the left is $345,000 is for a home price here in Texas. So you'll see a little bit below that, it says that year over year, this is up 11.3%. So our house prices are still up.
Wow. And look at this chart. When you look at this chart and you're looking at where did home prices, where were home prices in the past? Let me get it to open back up. They were below 200,000 across the state. Even, in the in like the 2014, 2015 timeline. And as they continue to climb, did you see that there's this huge jump somewhere between the pandemic starting in 2020 and now? Look how much it's gone up. And 345,000, this is the median price for the whole state. So I'm going to just guess that Collin County is probably a little bit higher than that if we just looked at Collin County. Is that right?
I would think so. I mean, just Dallas, the DFW generally in Collin County are such hot places. We have so many people moving here and such a great place to live. So I would believe that that's higher for sure.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to look at is the closed sales. So that's right over to the right a little bit. And it says closed sales, we've got 33,884. So the closed sales are actually down from last year. So it's about 12%, 12.5% down from last year. So we actually have less homes selling, which is really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this trend line here, and you can kind of see that it just up and down all the time, up and down all the time on the number of sales that are actually closed. So, you know, the fact that we're closing less properties does not necessarily automatically correlate with the fact that prices are up. But if we are selling less, maybe part of that is because we have less listings, but I don't know, it looks like there's more listings. So let's talk about that for just a little bit.
Sure. So the past 2 years, there's been all this talk, like we just have no listings, there's no inventory and whatnot. So this is super interesting to see. Is that the active listings that we have is 85,938. So almost 86,000 listings, and that's up 52.8%. So we've got double the amount of listings.
So last year in August, we only had 42,000 listings across the whole state.
All of Texas, yes.
Oh, wow. No wonder we were running out of houses to sell. And oh my gosh, look at this trend line. Where are we normally at? It looks like we're normally between 80 and 100,000 active listings at any given time. And then bam, the pandemic happens and literally the number of listings just dropped so significantly down to half. And then we came up a little and came back down, but we're just now, it looks like coming to what I would say is a pre-pandemic level. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, definitely. And we still have a ways to go for sure. We need more, we still need more listings out there.
Right. Absolutely. Well, if the average timeline or average listings is generally between 80 and 100,000, we're still on the low end of the average, the historical average.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look at this next one. What about this months of inventory? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting one. And this is months of inventory. So if nobody decided to sell their home starting today, there would be 2.6 months of inventory. So about 2.5 months of inventory. That's not a lot. So, you know, after that, all the listings would be gone. Right. So we're still in a seller's market. If we were to transition to a buyer's market, it would be more like 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. So we're definitely still in a seller's market for sure. We've got to wait.
Okay. So you're saying that if nobody else lists their house effective today, it would take us 2.5 months or so to sell the 85,000 listings that we have across the state. That's pretty much it? And then we would just, no more houses for sale. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's what that's saying. Yes.
Okay, well, good. So when does it become, oh, and look at the trend line on that. When does it become a balanced market? Look at all these trend lines in 2016, 2017, 2018, down here at the bottom. All of those were between 3 and 4 months. And didn't we think we were in a seller's market back then?
Yeah, that was still a seller's market. So balanced is about 5 months, about 5, 6 months.
5 to 6 months. Yeah. Anything over 6, we're probably in a buyer's market, but 5, 6, somewhere in there, we're probably more balanced. And then lower than that, we're in a seller's market.
Sure.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, so look at how much of a seller's market we were in. We didn't even have a whole month of inventory for the whole state in some of those timelines between 2020 and 2022. I mean, golly, look at how low those were. So no wonder. That's probably why, I mean, if you think about it, this is why homes were selling so fast, because as soon as they were coming on the market, somebody was already lined up to buy them because there wasn't enough inventory for them to meet the demand that we had. Is that right?
Totally. Yes. And I know everybody that was out there was feeling it too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, so you know what else I find interesting about this document that we're looking at is this price distribution right here on the right-hand side. Because again, this is for the whole state of Texas, like we were talking about. And it looks like, 11% are between 100 and 200,000, and there's another 2.5% less than 200,000. Literally, if you're trying to buy a house under 200,000 anywhere in Texas, it's 12, 13%, 14% of that 85,000. So it's not like there's very many homes to choose from anywhere across the state.
Right.
So,
Lots of competition in that area.
Yeah, a lot. I can imagine there's got to be tons. There's probably less months of inventory in those markets because the demand is always going to be good for lower priced homes, right?
Right.
But significantly less inventory. And I don't know, do you find it interesting that once you get to 200,000 all the way up to like 750, that's where everything is priced. And the
Yeah.
bulk, I mean, half of our inventory is priced between 200 and 400,000. That's an awful lot of properties in Texas. 40,000 of them are in that price range, 2 to 400,000. Man. All right. Well, is there anything else on this page that you want to go over? I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yes. So these, I think, there's some things down here I want to talk about because this is what has been mostly talked about. It's been like the talk of the town, and clients really are interested in this. So this will be really cool to look at. And we'll start on the left under days on market. So if you see there, it says days on market is 31 days, which is like we were talking about earlier. The past 2 years, it's been like 3 to 5 days or like a week. So to see 31 days on the market there it's pretty interesting. If you click on it, you can kind of see the trend that's happening. And you can see that in the past, 2016 and onward all the way up to 2020, we were seeing, about 50 to 60. I mean, in between 50 to 40 to 60 days on market. So we're still there. We're still, the homes are still selling pretty quickly.
Yeah, this right here is probably why your seller was not like in a total panic, because maybe the last time they bought or sold a property, it was 40 to 60, 70 days. And they were like, 3 weeks is no big deal. And meanwhile, you're over there like, wait a minute, what happened to those 3 days?
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah, well, but it looks like it's still really low. And I definitely see where, we're still selling homes and they're selling them fast. Definitely faster than average historical timeline.
Totally.
And then, anything else on this page you want to look at?
Yeah, just one more thing that we're going to talk about, which I think also everybody can kind of identify with, because for a long time we were hearing like, you're going to pay over list price. Like that's it. That's what it was happening the past few years. So down here on the right, in the bottom right, it says close / original list. So right there, you'll see 97.4%. So that means that when someone lists their house, they can expect, or the average is to expect, that they can get 97% of that. So it's $100,000 house, they'll get 97,000, which, in the past few years, it was more like that number would have been 110, 115, 105. It was always over list price plus some, sometimes plus a lot. Yeah. So if you kind of scroll over that, you can see a good demonstration of that too.
Yeah. Well, but what I find interesting here is, look, for the historical trend, it looks like, generally speaking, hang on, let me wake it back up. Generally speaking, it looks like properties are selling between 95% to maybe, I don't know, like 97%, somewhere like that. And I have always, said real estate sells at 3 to 5% off of the list price. Yes. In any given market, right? Even when the market's not doing so hot, it's going to be 3 to 5% off, because I think, generally speaking, a home buyer doesn't want to, or doesn't feel like, hey, that property is listed for 100,000. I'm going to come in with $70,000 offer. Yes. 30% off. The seller is going to be like, go take a flying leap. No, I'm not selling it to you, right?
Right.
So as long as the house is priced appropriately, it ought to sell for between 3 to 5% off of the list price. And you know, like you said, 97%, that's right in line. But you can see that little blip there when you look at this little chart here that you can see, like right here in 2020 and 2021, man, things were just, wow, over 100% across the state. That's what I think is amazing, is it the whole state, not just in Dallas or, you know, a major metropolitan area. It was the whole state. So is there anything else you want to look at on this page? I know that's a lot of information for our viewers tonight.
Yeah, that was a lot, but it was a really good snapshot there. But that's all that I have as far as just this little market viewer that we have.
Okay. All right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for going over it with us. I really, really appreciate you. I know that there's a lot of information there. And while some people might be thinking that the market is, you know, going to crash and they're hearing on the news that it's terrible. I mean, all the data that we just looked at points to it still being a seller's market, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Well, so I know some sellers have had price reductions on their listings, like just in the recent past.
Right.
And kind of like I was saying a minute ago, I think there are certain factors that I think make a home buyer think, or anybody in the public, whether they're buying or not, think, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end and prices are going to decline. But maybe that's one of the reasons why, is because they've seen some price reductions on some listings. Why do you think that we're having to see any of those if it's such a strong seller's market?
Right. And that's reasonable to think that. So I think, you know, when we're going to help a seller price their home, we're looking at all the historical data of the past few months to help them find the right price. And so with the past 2 years, it was just kind of all over the place. There really wasn't a good indicator of what was like a true price. It was like, you know, someone would list their house, you may get 10% over, you maybe get 25% over. And so what that does is that in that neighborhood and in that community, it brings up the prices. So the next time someone lists their house, they're like, oh, that one was priced at 125. I'm going to price mine at 120. And then that house that's listed for 120 is going to get 140. And so 2 weeks later, someone else wants to list their house and they're like, we can get 130. So it was really like drastically bringing it up the price. And it just, I mean, it wasn't going to stand. So people were constantly, you know, overpricing their listings, and, you know, the consumer was just shelling out cash. So now that we've actually really seen like a true shift in the market, home prices really didn't go down. They just stopped being raised at such an astronomical rate. So now that we've seen kind of how the market has been affected by these prices, it gives us a better indication and a more accurate reading on the data. And it helps us to really, truly price the homes accordingly and appropriately. A few months ago, we really just didn't have that accurate data. So that's kind of what we've been seeing here lately.
Yeah. And I that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. And I love that you said, you know, prices aren't going down. They just stopped going up so fast. They stopped going up at an astronomical rate. But I think also it's important for people to know that it takes a minute to catch up to the here and the now, right? Because we're going to look back in time as an agent. We're looking back at what did another house like this sell for 3 months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. We're looking at that historical data. And by the time somebody got under contract, went through the process and got to closing, and then we got that data, now it's at least 30 days. It's a 30-day lag time if it's not longer, right? So I do think that totally makes sense that if we had incorrect historical data from before the shift and now it's shifted, it gives us incorrect data to help our consumer price their property into the future. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Totally. And one of the other things that we discussed when we were looking at that market data snapshot is that we are having fewer, you know, closings on homes. So obviously, because the interest rates are higher, that means that we have less demand. There's just some people that, you know, decided not to buy anymore. So we still do have that limited number of properties and homes for sale. And with the limited supply, we're staying a little bit more balanced with the lower demand.
Yeah, well, and that makes sense. I mean, interest rates are up, and that does make it a little less affordable for somebody who could have bought a house at 3% interest just a couple of points in interest makes your house payment go up quite a bit. So totally makes sense that that's keeping us more balanced with the market. Now, okay, so my thought is though, while it's still a seller's market, I think personally, I think now is the best time for a home buyer that we've even seen in the last 2 years, right? Because prices aren't going through that astronomical roof, and you can get one for 97% instead of 115%, right? So in my opinion, now is the best time for a home buyer that they've been able to see in the last 2 years. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And I think there's just not the competition that we had. Appraisal waivers aren't dreadful and nerve-wracking. Although the prices are still up a bit, it's just not the frenzied seller's market that we had seen in the recent past. So buyers have the opportunity to take a little bit more time and to see more properties and to think a little bit more in depth about their choice and truly just take back some of their negotiating power, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is great stuff because, and I love it that you said it's not the frenzied seller's market. It was a frenzy, right? I mean, it was frantic. It is nice to have 3 weeks. It's nice to have a little breather.
Yeah.
And I love it that, like you said, buyers are getting some of their negotiating power back. And that's good. But because it's still a seller's market, what about sellers? The numbers looked like we're still having a lack of inventory. So it still seems like it's a good time to sell a house, I guess, as long as you understand the market, right? As long as you really understand and you don't go crazy and think you should just price it, way up here when it needs to be here. So with all of that said, what might a home seller need to know if they wanted to move right this minute? Is there any advice or anything that you have for them?
Yeah, so we just won't be saying like the extreme advantages that the sellers had. I mean, they really, were able to kind of take advantage of the situation and get a lot for their homes. And so, the homes are still appreciating, so that's great. But it really pays to consult a realtor and hire an expert that's in your market and knows their stuff and they're familiar with the area in that local market. So like we have been talking about with the sellers, we're going to provide all of the historical data, explain it, the trends. So you need someone that's super educated about kind of what's going on right now. So we'll suggest the right price for them and then help them to get their home sold for, obviously the most money possible in the quickest amount of time. So,
yeah, that totally makes sense. I totally can understand why, somebody needs to hire a realtor. First of all, that's the first starting spot, but to hire one that's educated and that has, information about the current market and can explain it and interpret it, I think to a seller is really important. And I think that sellers need to be really realistic about how the market has shifted and listen to, you brought that realtor in for some advice, listen to their advice, right? Yeah.
We want you to get money for your home. We want to help you. So we're giving you the advice that we think is right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's our job, is to get them the most money for their house, right?
Yeah.
And I think too, information for a seller is for them to just know, what, it is never a good idea to price your home too high because, there's so much that goes into it, right? Like if I'm selling my house and I get it all clean and pristine and I'm ready for my photos, and then you start calling me and saying, hey, you got to get the house clean and get ready for showings. And what if nobody books an appointment and then I've got my house clean for nothing? Or what if I keep getting a lot of showings and then no offers? That's a total pain to keep your house clean. And every time they call, you got to get the dog and get the kid and get out.
Yeah. Selling your house can be a little stressful depending on what you're doing already. If you're having to pack up and move and maybe you're going out of state and whatnot. So it can be exhausting generally. So if your home is sitting on the market, it can be exhausting. It can be a little stressful.
Yeah. Well, especially if I need my money to buy my next house.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Well, you know what? Here's what I take away from this. This is exactly why people need to hire a professional realtor. That's why they need us. That's all I'm saying.
True. Totally agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of your information today. I really, really appreciate it. And, I just enjoy chatting with you about real estate, and I hope that our viewers got some really good information. So thanks again for being with us tonight and sharing all your information.
Yeah, me too. And no problem. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so knowing that we are in this shifting market, and this is why people need a realtor to help them through the process. It doesn't matter buying, selling, market's on fire, or market's just a good market like we're having. All of these times you need a real estate agent. So let me just check real quick, because we're getting ready to wrap up, and we like to give away some free stuff. Gabby, do we have anybody that is chatting in on our Facebook Live tonight that has any questions that we need to answer about any of the market statistics or anything?
No questions on my end. People are just saying what a great section of information this is, and it was really neat to see the market viewer because not a lot of people get to see that. So no
Awesome.
questions on this end, just you girls are killing it.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks, Gabby. And thanks again, Reagan. I just thank you both of y'all. Thanks to both of you guys. I really appreciate you taking time tonight. Reagan, for you to share your expertise, and Gabby for just, keeping us running.
So true. You guys rock.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap up, let me just let everybody know, y'all, if you want more information about the real estate market or just the home buying process or the home selling process, don't forget to check in the chat. We'll put that link in there for the 10 steps to home ownership in 2022. And please know our agents live here and work here. And well, like Reagan said, she just travels around in here and looks at all the stuff in town around here. So whether you're moving now or whether you're moving next year, really and truly give us a call at our office, send me a text, send us an email, let us help you make your move to North Texas or just your move in North Texas. Maybe you already live here and you just want to move across town. We're good with that too. Also, if you want more information about any other real estate market data in North Texas, follow us on social media. We post all kinds of good stuff there at NTX Top Team, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get some really great information from us. And our experts are always here to help. And, we answer any questions you got. So thanks again, Reagan. Thank you, Gabby. Thank y'all so, so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks again, y'all. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great night.
All right, you too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.